Welcome to a podcast by Kayleigh, the gateway to unlocking your unlimited potential. I'm creating an army of 6- and 7-figure makeup artists, and I want you to join me. In this podcast, I'm going to be crushing gatekeeping, opening the doors to the knowledge you need, and deep diving into the topics that can push us to the next level. Be prepared for epic guests and answers to the questions you have always wanted to know. No more small business, no more just a makeup artist. The beauty industry is a $250 billion industry, and you're in it. Let's get ready to open those gates. This is a podcast by Kayleigh. Hello everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of a podcast by Kayleigh and the next episode of our mini mentorship. I'm so loving doing these for you guys. It really does feel so fresh and so exciting, and I hope it's really getting you excited for the next season potentially of the mentorship. This week is actually my favourite week to teach. I absolutely love CEO week. Every time it rolls around, every time I start that call, I literally shout at everyone saying, this is my favourite week. I know I say that every week, but genuinely, if my students do any week, if they just pick one week out of the mentorship and do it, it will be this week that brings them the success. If they just choose to do one thing, one tool from the mentorship, it's gonna be CEO week. And that applies to this podcast as well. If you have not actioned anything, but you action everything that we're about to talk about in this podcast, I guarantee you're gonna get results. So we're gonna be talking about showing up today as a CEO. It's an energy, guys, and it's an energy that I feel like I have really embodied this year more than ever. So let's talk about it. What is a CEO? What does that mean? What is the mindset? What is the energy of a CEO? I want to start this by painting a picture, by kind of telling you a little story about myself. This is something that I've actually really actively struggled with. In school, in my childhood, I always had the really biggest dreams. Can anyone resonate with this? At one point I wanted to be an actress. I always just wanted more for myself than my current situation was giving me. And this was a common thread, as I went to MAC, as I became a freelance makeup artist, as I had my own business, I always wanted more. And there was very much one thing that was holding me back. And if we want to be cliche, it was 100% myself. But more than anything, it was my mindset, and it was my view of what I was capable of. And I knew deep down I could achieve the things that I wanted to do, but really it took me stepping into my CEO mindset that changed the game. And here's the thing, guys. I don't think I really stepped into it until January this year. Building by Kayleigh was hard. It was a challenge. Building any business, building your own business is a super challenge, right? And it was very much all consuming. And I know you guys who are in the Level Up Club, the Level Up Club, they get an extra podcast a week, and it's often a little bit more vulnerable. And I'm not going to lie, in most of them I cry, which is really interesting. And in the Level Up Club, you will know that I've really struggled to maintain balance and boundaries over the last kind of 3 years that I was building by Kayleigh. And a lot of that was out of my control. At one point, you guys will know this, I've talked about this very openly, I was full-time as a makeup artist, working on set 4 days a week, doing weddings at the weekend, and full-time in this. And there came a point, and I remember we had just got Mio, and I really missed a lot of her as a puppy because I just wasn't there. I wasn't present. I was not showing up for myself or my partner or my family, my friends. I wasn't showing up for anyone. I was doing what I needed to do to get by, survive, and build a business. When I closed the chapter on Kayleigh KMUA, when I started to peel back and stopped taking on clients and really took myself out of the commercial side of things, I did regain a lot of balance back. It was very, very nice to actually just spend 5 days a week on by Kayleigh. But still, the picture that I want to paint for you is I was in the same four walls every single day. I have a beautiful desk that I'm very lucky to sit at. It's a standing desk. It goes up and down. I have a lovely chair, lovely mic, literally a pink iMac. But I was actually very unhappy because during that time of growing by Kayleigh, I wasn't taking care of myself. I'm going to be honest, and I might be oversharing, but I was spending every single day in my sweats. I was brushing my teeth because that is something that I'm extremely particular about, is my dental hygiene and my teeth. But I wasn't taking care of myself. The things that I was eating would be like quick ramen, because that's quick. I can make that in 3 minutes, right? Like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten in 6 hours. Let me demolish a McDonald's. Let me eat the things that are super duper quick so I can get back to work. I wasn't getting enough sleep because I was, working until like 9 p.m., 8 p.m. And this was when I had achieved, quote unquote, the balance. I was not wearing makeup. And here's the thing, and I'm going to do a trigger warning here. We're going to go talk about weight. We're going to talk about diet culture. I'm a child of the 90s. I am a child of heroin chic. You remember those pictures of Jessica Simpson where she looks absolutely stunning and she was on every tabloid about how she was like a size 12. I'm a child of that generation. I am not a child of the body positive movement. And it is something that, if I'm being really, really honest with you on this podcast, I have struggled with immensely, is my self-image, my weight, and putting myself first. Looking after myself is something that I have notoriously struggled with as I have built up by Kayleigh. And whilst I had the CEO mindset, if I had changed my mindset to think I can achieve anything, I have the drive, I have the grind, I have the hustle, I have the discipline, I have the consistency, but I didn't have a very essential component that not a lot of people talk about, and I didn't have self-love. I loathed the way I looked. And that is not speaking lightly on it. I'm talking dreading going out in public. I'm talking thinking, and this is something that I still really struggle with. I'm not sitting here as a completely healed woman. It's something where I will think about it maybe every couple of minutes. I was not working out. I was not looking after myself. I was showing up the bare minimum for myself because I was showing up so much for my business. And it's really hard to say that. It's really, really hard. And I feel a little bit of shame around that, but I'm trying to release that. I'm really trying to work through that. So as a result of kind of 3 years of really, really going for it and building an incredible and crazy thing called By Kayleigh, I couldn't fit in anything in my wardrobe. I dreaded going out. I dreaded seeing Robbie's parents. I dreaded seeing my parents, because I don't know about you guys, but my parents are of that generation where they don't have a filter. So, if you have gained a bit of weight, they absolutely tell you. And I'm going to hold my hands up and say that it's something that I struggle with. And very much in 2020, I got sick of not having any financial independence. At the beginning of 2024, only a few months ago, I got sick of that mindset. I literally looked at myself in the mirror and said, no more of this mindset, because this is not showing up as a CEO. I was showing up as a CEO on the outside. You were seeing success and followers and numbers and sold out courses. I had a successful business, but I was not showing up as a CEO for myself. And that's really what I want this call to be about. I don't want to come on here and tell you how to make routines, but we do talk about that in the mentorship. In the mentorship, we talk about like morning and evening routines and how to structure your week and how to time manage. We do a time audit. We do all of the things that will help the functioning of your business. But on this podcast today, I want to talk about the inner CEO that we have inside us and how we're treating them. Because trust me, I was not looking after myself and I was not a CEO on the inside. And I may have been preaching it, and I was literally in the mentorship, season 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 were seeing me talk about being a CEO. But I wasn't actually one, because every minute of the day I was putting myself down inside my head, and I was saying some of the worst things to myself. And actually it was something in therapy that came up, and it was about, when you're thinking these horrible things about your weight and the way you look, to actually imagine you telling like 6-year-old you that really kind of helped switch my mindset on this. But one thing that I've really stepped into this year, when I became sick of myself in January, I said, Kayleigh, every single day that you wake up, you need to do something for you before you do something for your business. Because in my head, my business was the most important and all-consuming part of me. And that's really, really hard to admit on a public platform, but I'm going to admit it. It was all-consuming, and I had boundaries and I was really good at enforcing them, but that doesn't mean that in my head I wasn't thinking about work, or I wasn't, I would immediately wake up and jump on the laptop before doing my hair, before even really like having a moment to be present and grateful for the things that I have already built and achieved. So the first steps that I took at the beginning of this year was actually thinking about who it is I want to be. What does my future CEO self look like? And when I thought of that, I thought of this confident, independent, badass woman who never put herself down. She was the shit. She was the absolute shit. She was a baddie. She was a bad bitch, and she never put herself down. And every single day since then, since literally creating in my head that person that I want to be, my version of a CEO, I have done everything I can to become her. I have literally every single day imagined like a metaphorical pair of her shoes and stepped into them. And everything that I do now, be it like every action that I take, everything I eat, every action in my business is based on what she would do. And this might sound like really strange. I don't know if this is like coming across weird to you guys, that it might sound like I'm becoming a different person, but I wasn't. To me, that was becoming my true self, becoming my true purpose. It was the first steps to actively taking care of myself. And this started really, really simply. It would start with me just going to the gym before work. It started with me getting up 30 minutes earlier and doing a hair mask. It started with simple things like getting up and putting on makeup. And that was something I wasn't doing. I was not putting on makeup. If you came to any of my calls in season 1, 2, 3, or 4, I had no makeup on. I was in a hoodie that I had probably lived in all week, because every second of my day was consumed with the business and not me. I was giving so much of myself to everyone else, every member of the community, every student that I had, every DM. I was giving everything that I had nothing left for myself. And that was a revolving day in, day out experience that I had to undo. For myself. Ultimately, I'm a human on this planet. I'm living as the main character of my life. So I should be putting me really before anyone else. It's like that analogy, when you're in an aeroplane and they say at the very beginning of the flight, the attendant, they will tell you, put your mask on before attaching your child's mask. And why do they tell you to do that? They tell you to do that because you are useless if you're not putting yourself first. You can't help, you can't serve anyone else if your cup is not full. So every single day now, I'm trying to fill up my cup so that I can be even better. And it's working. I really do think. I did a branding shoot. It's on my Instagram. Go and check it out. I've pinned it because I'm so proud of it. And on this branding shoot, I remember having the call with Rebecca, and I said to her, look, I did a branding shoot in 2021 and I loved it, and I still love and use those pictures, but I very much hid. I hid behind laptops. I hid behind my PA. I hid behind anything that I created. I hid behind my dog because I wasn't comfortable with who I was. So with this branding shoot, I really wanted this shoot, and really this shoot was a big deal for me because I'm not at my goal weight yet. I'm not at my most comfortable body yet. But literally every time I have those thoughts, I'm like, wait, no, that badass CEO that you envisioned wouldn't be saying those things. She would go to that shoot, she would buy a really freaking good, expensive suit, and she would wear the fuck out of it. And that is what I did. And I showed up and I was insanely uncomfortable. And yes, there were 2,000 images, and yes, most of them were unusable. But then I got the 50 back and I loved them and I looked confident, and I did feel confident. We got the tunes on. I felt, weird because it's sometimes not fun being the other side of the camera when you've spent a decade literally making people camera ready. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. But I felt like I really was that person that you see in them images, that I was happy, I was free, I was fun, and I was confident the first time ever. For the first time ever. And that's crazy. That's crazy to say. That is the CEO mindset that I'm talking about. It is your version. Who is she? I want you to actually pause the episode in a sec and ask yourself, who is your future CEO? What does she look like? What does she sound like? What does she do? What does she embody? What does she envision? I wrote down all of these things because I wanted to be her, and we are her. She's in us, just hidden by all these projections that society has given to us, all the magazines, all of the horrible diet culture, all of the horrible things that the press say about women day in, day out that we've taken on board. Hide her. but she's there. And that is what I mean by showing up as a CEO. So every single day now, I try and show up as her. And some days I don't. Literally, I'm recording this and I'm wearing a black pink t-shirt and sweatpants. But we're on a crunch. We are on a crunch. I want to get these podcasts recorded. But after this, I'm going to have a really nice, healthy lunch. I'm going to go and have a shower. I'm going to do my hair, do my makeup. And every single day I dress up. And I never used to. But my future CEO, she looked so good. She was in like the flyest clothing. So I gutted my entire wardrobe. I threw out anything that made me feel icky. That was the oversized t-shirts that I was hiding, and that was the big hoodies that I was hiding behind. And I started the process of curating a wardrobe and a routine that made me feel as badass as that vision was. So that is the first piece of homework that I kind of want to give you guys. Is I want you to sit and manifest and create your CEO persona. What does she sound like? What does she stand for? What does she look like? How does she show up? What does she say about herself? What does she think about herself? And I want us all to come together and become those women, those people, those men. I want us to become them because we can. They are in us. And it is not easy. It's a lot of inner hard work that you have to do on this journey. But if you want to make it to the next level, because trust me, I talk to you guys, I hear your dreams, I hear your manifestations, I hear what you're striving towards. In this community, we have some of the biggest badasses I have ever seen, with some of the biggest dreams and biggest goals and biggest aspirations. And I'm so proud of every single person who's listening to this podcast, because by you being here, listening to my silly little voice, you're taking action. You want more for yourself. I can feel that. You're like me. You want more for yourself, or you would not be listening to the stories that you hear on this podcast. So it's time to step into that person, because they're in you or you wouldn't be here. So we're going to do it. I want you to create that persona. One thing that's really useful for this is to make a Pinterest mood board. I pinned all the outfits, all the poses, all of the energy that I wanted to embody. And I looked at it every single morning as I was getting ready. I actually created a vision board as well, and I put it as my home screen. My home screen is now my dog again. We just can't help it. I'm always really bad with making like manifestation mood boards, and then it lasts like 2 days and then I change it back to my dog. But I want you to, if that works for you, to create a vision board that helps you embody this energy, because this is what it takes. If you want more for yourself, if you, like me as a teenager, was in a house or an environment where you just wanted out, where you wanted more, where you wanted a better life for yourself, for your children, for your spouse, for your family, then the very first part of that is stepping into your true embodiment of a CEO. And here's the thing, guys, if you are a business owner, you are technically the CEO of that business. It might not be the thing that you write down on paper, or it might not be the technical term, but if you're making those big business decisions, you're the CEO. So it's time to become that. It's time to embody that energy and that mindset. No more, and I say this all the time, no more small business energy. I am tired of that energy. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear, oh, but Kayleigh, they won't pay that rate. That's small business energy. And we on this platform don't have time for that. We are showing up with big business badass energy. But in order to do that, in order to embody that, we need to become that person. So some other things that I also think are really important around this kind of concept. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do in the mentorship. We have my favorite call, and we also talk about some of the more practical things that make up a CEO. One thing that comes up a lot as reasons for joining the mentorship is people want a little bit of help with their routines, their time management, how to fit it all in, how to really structure their business. And this is the week where we really do that. So we often go over like morning and evening routines. We also look at how to structure your week so you can get everything done. We do a really good time audit. We also do energy audits to see how we could work with our bodies. Because here's the thing, right? I am so tired of the books that tell you to be a morning person. Because if you had told me to be a morning person in my 20s, it was actually physically impossible. I am not wired that way. Some of us are not wired that way, and we should stop trying to fit that mold. I'm so sick of the molds that society give us, like 9 to 5. Lauren, the other day, she came up to me and she said, Kayleigh, I'm way more productive in the afternoon and evening. So we changed her at working hours, because as a business owner, I want my member of my team to be productive, right? And I also want them to be happy. We should not be forced to be morning people if we are not wired that way. Here's the thing. I'm wired as a morning person now. There was a little shift that happened in my 30s, and I love getting up at 6:30 now, and I love like getting shit done before 9 a.m. It makes me very, very happy as a 34-year-old woman. But I could not have done that in my 20s because I just wasn't wired that way. My energy wasn't there. It just wasn't the way that my body makeup was. So in the mentorship, we really do go through like energy levels and working with who you are as a human and not fitting the very generic mold that society gives us. Let's release some shame around that. If you have been told your entire life to be a morning person and you're not, you don't have to be. If you're here in this community, I'm telling you, you do not have to be that morning person. I promise you. If you get your best work done in the evening, make routines around that. Now, a big part of why I think CEO Week is a really important week, other than this kind of energy and mindset that we've just spoke about, is I talk a lot about discipline and consistency. And I really wanted to touch on that today because I think it's really important. It goes back to what I said. If you do any week and it's this week, this is the week. If you just do one thing from it, will take you to your goals. And it begins with that word, consistency. I have a makeup artist that I trained with, ever so talented. She could have honestly have become the next Pat McGrath. She was like Alex Box. Her talent levels were just out of this world. And her social media could have absolutely blown up, but she lacked that one thing. That's consistency. And it's so cliche, but I really want you to listen and listen hard and carefully and get your notebooks. Write this down if you can. Consistency beats talent every single time. I want to give you some of my favourite stories around this fact. Let's take Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has a fascinating story. I would really highly recommend like diving into him. He's one of the strongest kind of athletes mindset wise. And he was hard. He was hard on his team. He was hard on himself. And he was actually told in high school that he would never make it. They never would see him in the NBA. But Michael Jordan, I always say this in my mentorship, he was not born the GOAT, but he admits that he did 500 to 1,000 shots in off season every single day. It was not his talent. It played a part. It played like 1% a part. It was his consistency that made him Michael Jordan. It's the same thing with Serena and Venus Williams, right? They did not come out of the oven amazing tennis players. They became Serena and Venus Williams through consistency. If you've watched King Richard, go and watch that film. It really goes into their backstory. Will Smith plays their dad. They trained every single day after school. They trained relentlessly. And this is the thing. If you do one thing and it's just be consistent about one single thing in your life, it will beat the talent. Because the thing that holds the talent back is they're not consistent with it. If you look at any top 1%, if you look at any hero that you have, any inspiring person, if you look at me, if you're inspired by me, why am I here? Because I was so consistent, because I showed up and created content every single day, and I showed up very consistently for it. There were days where I didn't want to show up. Mentally, I probably shouldn't have been showing up, but I did it very, very consistently, and it got me to my goals. If you think of any marathon runner, they do not run a marathon on their first run. They consistently train for it. If you think of anyone that you look up to, it's because they have done that very thing, that very reason you look up to them consistently for years. If you look at why you have not succeeded or achieved your goals, do you think it's this one thing? Do you think it's because you've not been consistent enough? I'm here to tell you some tough love right now, tough love incoming. But I know you can take it. I know this community can take it better than anyone. But consistency is the reason why 99% of makeup artists don't achieve what they want to achieve. Any student that comes to my program and says to me, I haven't booked this or I haven't been able to do this, and I look at what they've been doing, it's because they've not been consistently doing it. If you have no bookings, if you have no clients, if you have no brand deals, if you have no bicep muscles, if you have no personal best, if you have no amazing garden in your back garden, it's because you haven't consistently done the thing that's required. You haven't consistently posted. You haven't consistently knocked on the doors. You haven't consistently watered your garden. You haven't consistently gone to the gym. Consistency is the number one thing you need to make it. I love telling the story of Walt Disney. Walt Disney There's a vague fact out there. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's probably close to true. But when he was looking for funding back in I'm going to say the 30s or 40s for the Disney company, he was rejected from every single bank. I think the stat out there is 500 banks, but I really doubt there's 500 banks in America, but I could be wrong. He was rejected left, right and centre. If Walt Disney gave up, if he said, nope, they're right, I don't have a good idea here, we would not have the Disney company. Can you imagine a world without that? That seems insane, right? It goes for anyone or anything. Oprah didn't get her big shot in her 20s. Oprah got her big shot in her 40s or 50s, I think. Fact check me on that one, guys. There are some people out there that just have the one client and get the lucky break. That is true, but that is a 1% of people. And if you're sitting there waiting for the client that gives you the lucky break, it's going to be way harder. The actual easy way is to just do what you're doing very consistently. If you want brand deals, the other day, I talked to an influencer who got paid 30K for a Dyson ad. She went on a shoot, she did the ad, she got 30K paid within 30 days for that ad. She then used that as part of her mortgage payment. How incredible is that? This is not, by the way, a one-off story. I hear this story all the time. My boyfriend is an example. You guys know he worked in social media for video games. He paid 100K to a YouTuber to create a YouTube ad for their game. To work with brands, you have to consistently show up on your platforms. You really do. Brands are not going to look at your Instagram account, see you posted 6 months ago and think, yep, let's bank on her. They're not going to do it. You need to be consistent in the pursuit of your goals if you want to achieve them. And that's why I said, if you take anything away from it, if it's this, that's the one thing you need. So if you are here and you haven't achieved your goals, I want you to take a pinch of consistency and show up. Show up when it's hard. Show up when there's one like. Show up when no one's engaging. Show up when you don't want to show up. Show up when you do want to show up. But show up regularly and consistently. If you do that, you absolutely can't go wrong. You can come back to me if it's not working, but I guarantee it's the missing piece of the puzzle. Now, the second thing I want to touch on, and I might get a little bit of heat for this one, but discipline. I think discipline goes hand in hand with consistency, because in order to be consistent, you've got to be disciplined. But it's something that's very weaponized right now. And this is where I might get a bit of heat, because here's the thing. I'm very disciplined. The last 4 years show anybody that. If I say I'm going to do something, chances are I'm probably going to do that thing. Might not do it well, might fail it, but I'll probably see it through. It's because I'm very disciplined in the pursuit of my goals. That's what makes me consistent. But discipline is a bad word now. Hustle is a bad word. But I'm here to tell you it's a very necessary component. And going back to the beginning of the episode, I prioritized my business probably a bit too much because I lost myself in that process and I wasn't taking care of myself. But I truly don't believe Kayleigh would be here if I had not done that. I had to do that. I had to work really damn hard. Anything that is worth having doesn't come easy. Hard work is a necessary component to success, but that's a really bad thing to say, and I don't think it should be. Kim Kardashian, she went on that interview and she said, get your ass up and work. And she is kind of right. I mean, I know Kim Kardashian has 5 nannies and she has her breakfast, lunch and dinner made for her, and she's very unrealistic to maybe the mum of 3 who has no spare hours in the day. And I get it. I'm talking as a privileged white woman with no children here, right? I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege. You absolutely, no matter where you're at, need a sprinkle of hard work. And if your hard work comes in that 30-minute gap when your children are asleep, whether that hard work comes with you getting up at 5 a.m. before the kiddies wake up, you do have to do that to get to your goals. You don't have to go to the extent that I did, however. You don't have to burn yourself out. You don't have to lose yourself in the process. You can be that badass CEO, have a bit of balance, but also have those moments of hustle, because you need it. You need the hustle, you need the discipline, and you need the consistency. Anyone that we look up to had those 3 things. Big things don't come from putting an Amazon order into the universe and waiting. It does not work that way. Big things don't come from sitting back and waiting for the clients to come to you. It really doesn't. You have to have a sprinkle of hustle in there every now and then. And the way that I try and do it, and it's exactly the same as Marissa Grace, she came on the podcast and me and her work very, very similarly. You have seasons of hustle and you have seasons of rest. For me, I don't hustle as much in the summer for a few reasons. I'm not very productive in the heat. Over here in London, we don't believe in AC. It's just not a thing here. And, some of the temperatures that we can get to here in London without AC are quite incredible. So for me, I try and take it a little bit easier. My seasons of rest are probably more the summer. And then the colder, like the autumn and the winter, that's where I go hustle mode. And I think that's a really balanced way to look at it. Have your hustle seasons, have your seasons where you might be launching and go hard and be disciplined and be consistent. If you have those things, it is categorically impossible for you to fail, I promise. If you're showing up as that CEO with those things, it's over for everyone else. Pieces of homework for you then is to create your CEO persona and make a list. I literally have a notes app list on my iPhone of ways that I can show up as her. And I go on that list every single day and I just pick one. Sometimes it's a hair mask, like I said. Sometimes it's a face mask. Sometimes it's a spin class. Most of the times it involves me getting dressed up in, more often than not, my suit, because after all, I paid so much money for it, I'm going to use it. Sometimes it's a badass lipstick and sometimes it is sweatpants and talking into a mic like I'm doing today. Your second piece of homework is to think about the things that I talked about, the hustle, the discipline, and the consistency, and asking yourself openly and honestly if you're doing those things. I want you to think of your big bucket list goal. Whether it's doing makeup for the Met Gala, whether it's doing makeup for the Oscars, whether it's going on tour with a musician, whether it's working on a film set, whether it's sitting in Bali at your laptop doing an online coaching course. And then I want you to think about whether you are being consistent and disciplined enough to make that happen. And then I want you to think about what would happen if you injected those two things in, because the end goal starts to seem a little bit more realistic. And I also want to acknowledge that we should be patient with this, okay? I know sometimes, especially in this episode, I can be a bit hard, but some of us here don't have the lifestyles, the money, the time that perhaps I have or perhaps Kim Kardashian has. I want you to also be realistic with yourself in this. One exercise, because most of the students that I have are mums. I would say 80% of them are working mums, and I encourage them to be realistic when they're setting their routines and thinking about this CEO. I want them to be realistic in what they can actually achieve, because if you're unrealistic, if you say to yourself, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m, I'm going to go to the gym, and then I'm going to come home, I'm going to create content, I'm going to film a podcast, and then I'm going to go and pick my kids up, and then I'm going to put makeup on, and I'm going to do another gym session, you're setting yourself up for failure straight away, and nothing will kill your momentum and crush you more than failing. Make it easy for yourself, okay? And be realistic. If you know you maybe have 1 hour spare a day to work on your business and work on your goals and work on showing up as a CEO, make it that hour. It doesn't have to be, as I said, it doesn't have to be the 9 to 5 template. I do the 9 to 5 template because that works for me. But when I become a mum, do you think I'm going to be doing that? Absolutely not. We have to find the pockets of time where we have them, and then we use them to hustle. Then we use them to be consistent. But the main thing I want you to be is realistic about how much you can achieve. Don't crush yourself before you've even began. If it's 20 minutes, if you only have 20 minutes a day to show up as a CEO, that 20 minutes is better than nothing. Do that 20 minutes. Maybe you'll find you have momentum. Maybe that 20 minutes turns into an hour. Maybe the baby naps for longer and you end up having an hour of time to work on your business. It's just about working with what you have, being realistic, but being smart and understanding. We got to work on that discipline. We got to work on that consistency. I know you guys can do it because every single person listening, like I said, is here for a reason. You're tuning in because you want more for yourself. And this here is the week that you can get it. But more than anything, what I would love for you guys to do, if you really resonated with this, is to tag me in a picture this week on your story of you showing up as a CEO. What does your dream CEO do? Do they go for long walks and listen to podcasts? Do they do like a power walk? I see this a lot in London. I see loads of like badass business people and they're power walking whilst on a meeting. Tag me in that. If you're doing something to show up as a CEO this week, showing up for yourself, tag me in it because I would love, love, love to see it. So I think that is officially me signing off for this episode of the Mini Mentorship. I hope that you are loving it and getting loads out of it. Remember, you can sign up to be part of season 7, 8, 9, whenever you're listening to this. I am probably still doing the mentorship, but I would love to see you in my next season. Please do slide in my DMs if you want any more information, or go on my website and you can sign up there for the next season. The next season that I'm running in real time as I record this is season 7. I don't know about you, but 7 is a magic number for me. So I hope to see you in season 7. If you do have any questions about the mentorship, please do let me know. But I will see you back here next week for our next episode, which is going to be on mindset. Bye, guys. You have been listening to a podcast by Kayleigh. Thank you so much for tuning in today and being on this mission with me to self-improvement and taking steps towards financial empowerment. If you liked what you heard today, be sure to follow me on the gram @ByKayleigh where I post pretty much daily. I would also love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and energy. So please do leave me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you are listening today. In the meantime, I want you to go forward, believe in yourselves, and be the change you want to see. Bye, guys.